Last-minute shake-up at 5:30 a.m., laundry situation not good. And when your focus is on helping your clients, it's easy to forget about yourself. But NASM knows trainers.
Morning, Ryan. Is it Taylor?
And staying in front of the day isn't always as simple as 1, 2, 3. So when the unexpected has you pressing pause,
What's the latest on creatine?
I'm going to get back to you on that.
let NASM1 help you press play. Visit NASM.org to sign up for a membership today.
You're listening to Random Fit with hosts Wendy Batts and Ken Miller, winner of a Gold Markham Award for Digital Media.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Random Fit. I am Wendy Batts here with Ken Miller. Ken, how are you?
I'm great, Wendy. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for asking.
There you go.
Today, we are going to be talking about preventing everyday fitness fails. And this topic came about because Ken and I were talking about some of our clients and some of the stories that we've heard this past year. And a lady that's like my second mom, she's my Tennessee mom, if you will, as she has recently was getting out of her car. It just turned cold in Nashville. And she said that she got out of her car and all of a sudden her lower back is killing her, just getting in and out of her car. So we are going to talk about the common things that we hear and hopefully give you guys some ideas and suggestions so some of these fails don't happen to you.
Yeah, and I'll say we don't even need your Tennessee mom to get some good start, because half of these things, Wendy, that you and I talked about, I think, well, 3/4 of them I've experienced myself at some level, and so most of these I'll be able to speak from personal experience, if not actually experiences from my clients. So hopefully we'll be able to address some things that you can do to prevent these everyday fitness fails. So Wendy, what's the first one?
I don't know about you guys, but I am one of those people that think that I can lift way more than I should at certain times, especially when I go to the grocery store and have a long list of things that I have purchased at the checkout. And so I put it all in my car because, I bring it in a basket, I put it in the back. Well, heaven forbid I take more than one trip out of the back of my car into my house by bringing in multiple bags of groceries. I just try to do it all in one trip and see how I make out, whether it's good or bad. And this happened actually to a client that does the same thing. And when I say some of these bags are heavy, like even by the time I walk from my garage to my kitchen, which is not really that far, I've made huge marks on my arms because I start the bags to my elbow and go all the way to my hands. And then I try to close the button on my trunk. And so it's a hot mess, by the way. But I had a client this past year that did the same thing, except for she put all of her stuff on the ground and then decided to pick it up and take it inside. And so the squat to lift the groceries from point A to point B ended up into her having some serious back issues. And it was something of, okay, we need to really work on your squat mechanics. Now, I say that she's a client of mine. I got her because of that issue, just so you know. So I want to start it off with that. Like, it wasn't someone that she had been working with me. She came to me because she's like, I can't even bring my groceries in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is something that just last night, Wendy, you ever go to Costco and you don't have the big Costco bag? Do you have one of those big Costco bags?
No.
I have
the boxes here.
I try not to bring any of those extra cardboard boxes, just because then you got to break it down, and I don't know what kind of industrial strength glue
I know,
because I'm like, I
step on it.
I step on it, and I still think I'm gonna break an ankle trying to step on it. But anyway, what I do now is I bring the big bag that we've had for years, and I just load it up every day. I think, okay, I'm gonna hit the weight limit for this bag. But yesterday I did just that. I loaded it up because the car was parked across the street, no street parking. And, once you get the avocado oil and, all the frozen stuff, I had to pick things up off the ground. And I didn't feel it, but I can see where the stress and the strain is going to get you through the hips and the quads. But the other thing I'll add on to this one when it comes to the grocery bag side of grocery bag fails of lifting. It's the fact that you're now doing not just a picking up from the ground and standing up, but you're now doing a farmer's carry.
Yeah.
And I've got to now walk across the street, look both ways, go up the stairs, again, kind of nudge the door open with my elbow because I've got 2 full bags in both hands. And then I got to kind of go sideways through the entryway. So now I'm kind of walking sideways. I've got, I don't know, at least 40 or 50 pounds in each hand as I'm meandering through my narrow hallway and up the stairs. So I think the one other thing we got to add on to this as far as picking things up from the ground to standing is that now you actually have to carry and bring this thing across the street, across the room, up some stairs. And I hate to think that, when I lived in other places, 3-story walk up, no elevator, right? What I had to do back then. Again, I was much younger back then, but these are the things we have to train our people for. These are the things that we have to train ourselves for. So it's not just about being strong in general or looking good or managing your body composition. It's about, okay, I just need to get food inside the house. Heaven forbid you get the 3-carton thing of milk, because that alone.
Yeah, we don't go that route. However, these are everyday activities. So when we talk about really thinking through what our clients need to be good at, if you look at a bunch of research and statistics, improper lifting is a big way to really injure your clients, or if they're not sure what they're doing on their own and they're at the gym, where they end up getting the low back pain issues is usually from improper lifting. So think about the functional movement patterns that we need. Squatting and hinging are 2 big ones. And so when you're in the gym, if you know that this is you, if you're listening to this and you're like, oh my gosh, this is what I do, as you get older, it's something to think about. So really working on proper lifting mechanics, meaning 5 kinetic chain checkpoints, feet are straight ahead, knees are in line with second and third toe. You've got good parallel lines from your shin and your lower back as you go down into a squat, and really coming up, squeezing the glutes and working on the quad glute relationship, meaning that as you squat, the 2 prime movers of a squat should be your quads and your glutes, and really focusing a lot on the posterior chain, so your whole backside. I think if you can get that narrowed down and really pinpoint certain exercises that mimic these patterns, it's only going to translate into good things as you move forward and you're emptying out your car, because it is the day that you need to go grocery shopping, to prevent something as simple as the grocery bag fail or lifting the grocery bags.
Lifting the grocery bags. Right. But again, you gotta think about the big picture. There's picking it up and then it's putting it away. So there's a lot of parts to it as far as just getting food in and out of the house. More in the house than anything else. All right. So this next one, Wendy, when it comes to what we do, if you're like that, you work out, you got to have your shoes on. So the one thing we want to talk about now is actual pulls. And Wendy, I don't know if you've ever had clients that talked about this, just bending over to tie their shoes and feeling a little tightness that comes. And again, there's the low back again, low back, hip, hamstring, maybe even a little bit of the calf as you're sitting there, or if they still can, kind of squat down and tie their shoes. So I don't know, Wendy, if you had any stories, but I have actually had a client that actually talked about his sciatica, all right, his sciatic issue, and feeling it in just tying his shoe. So,
well, I think there's so many different ways this could go, because I've had people, and I am this way. If I'm in a hurry, I don't always tie my shoes, right? I have my shoelaces tucked in and I slip them on. I mean, I think that's probably why there's so many shoe companies now that are like, as you get older, you can just slip on and you don't even have to bend over to tie your shoes. It's probably for these reasons, because my dad being included, we bought him a pair of these and he thinks they're the best things ever, because he does not have to bend down, because he struggles to get back up. And unfortunately, we have clients that come into the gym for multiple reasons of why they struggle getting off the ground. But as we age, we know that is definitely something that we constantly need to work on to ensure that we can get up. But yes, if it's not bending over to tie the shoe, it's someone like me that if I do decide I am going to tie my shoe, I don't even want to do that. I prop my foot up, I tie it, and then I move on. Or I will tie them loosely, which is also not very smart. Or I just lift a leg up and tie it really quick. So
Uh-huh.
think about all of those situations. Number one thing you need is balance. You have to make sure that if you are
Yeah.
going to lift a leg and do something like that, if you're not leaning up against something, you have to have good balance. But to your point, Ken, if you bend down, you better know you can get back up or be close to something to pull you back up, because
Mhm.
there's a lot of bad things that could happen.
Right. And if you think about, Wendy, do you have a shoehorn in your closet or in your?
No.
Oh my God.
I would need lots of them.
I had no idea that they made shoehorns that were a foot and a half long. And my son loves it because he could just put his foot in and then he's got the shoe. He doesn't even have to bend over anymore because he's short still, that this longer shoehorn gets it. So he's already remedied the issue before he's got an issue, right?
I don't know
So
if that's a good thing or bad thing.
I
You need
know
to teach
he's kind of
quality
lazy.
movement at a young age, Ken.
Yeah, actually, you know where he got it from? His grandfather has the shoehorn, the longer version, and so he's like, "I love this." I'm like, "Oh God."
I didn't
Uh,
think you did that unless you were wearing dress shoes or something like that.
yeah, well, because the back lip of the heel keeps getting folded in,
Oh,
and yeah, so anyway, it's a structural issue. But I
well,
digress. So the part of it here, so talking to my clients about this, because I've heard comments about coming over, even if tying the shoe or not, just reaching down for the shoe. They're feeling the hamstring, they're feeling the calf. So that if there's a pre-existing issue of having either piriformis syndrome or sciatica or sciatic issues, right? The protocol is the same. So as you mentioned, Wendy, it is about balance and having good proprioception, because even for a second, when you're on that one foot, if you're doing this standing up, you still have to maneuver your foot into the shoe. And then while you're maneuvering your foot into the shoe, you still have at least 80-90% of your weight on that stance leg while you're trying to get the foot in the shoe. So there's that part of it. So you have to have good balance, good proprioception, which does mean good foot integrity, because eventually you're going to have to get on the other leg to put on the other shoe. So making sure that you're incorporating some balance work so that you can actually stand on one foot much longer than it takes to put on the shoe. But they remember that book Built to Move
oh
by the
yes.
Starretts? Yeah, that was one of the challenges, right? Putting on your socks and your shoes while standing and balancing. So something great for you guys to try. If you're not having issues, let's see how good you are at actually putting on your shoes and doing it upright, not leaning on anything, putting your socks and your shoes standing on one leg.
I mean, I
So
think it's even putting on your underwear and your pants. I mean, you still have you're on one leg, and if you don't sit down to do it, which I don't, I
right.
put one foot in. So when we
Yeah.
start to think of it, we were talking so much about shoes, but most
Yeah.
people need to dress their lower half, and that's the same
Yeah.
situation. So even if that's not your current scenario with the shoe thing, think about your pants. And
Right.
it is an ongoing joke. I have a client who always says, Wendy, I can still put one leg in and stand on the other one when I'm getting dressed in the morning. And so that's a big accomplishment for him. I'm like, you know what? Good for you. So
Yeah.
what about this, Ken? Scenario number 3. So you're walking down the street and you miss a curb, or I don't know about
Mhm.
you, I don't turn the lights on in the morning when I go to work because my family's still asleep, and we have a bunch of stairs, and so I'm just praying that I don't miss a stair or try to hit a stair that doesn't exist. I don't know if any of those situations have occurred,
All of
but
them.
how about the fall off the curb, the roll the ankle or almost roll the ankle scenario?
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be a curb, right? Because I don't know the exact height of a curb, because you got a little bit of grounds there. But even if just a little, if there's just an even offset sidewalk curb, one square into the next, even like by an inch, and if you're sitting there or you're walking and you're talking or paying attention, looking at your phone by chance, then just a little bit of lip, a little bit of change in surface, or even texture, like going from sidewalk to sand or sidewalk to grass. Anything that can introduce a tripping hazard. This is one of those things that I've done this myself, right? I've done this myself when you're walking, but I would rather fall than sprain. Well, then again, I'm okay with
Well, I don't know,
falling.
because remember, my
Yeah.
kid, when he was
Yeah.
learning to walk, he didn't lift his feet very high because he was still kind of in the
Yeah. Oh,
learning
yeah.
stages.
Yeah.
Tripped on the sidewalk and busted out his 2 front teeth. So
Ouch. Oh, that's right. I remember that.
yes,
Yeah.
so there is
That's
that as well. So I think in that situation, I would have
Tuck and
maybe
roll.
rather
Gotta
had the
tuck and roll.
sprained, but yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what? That's when you have to incorporate to thinking about movements of daily activity. And so oftentimes, I know when Ken, you and I are working with brand new trainers, we ask this question very often, and especially in our courses. Hey, if you have a senior that's coming to see you and she's very active, would you start to incorporate plyometrics? Or would you do reactive training? Or
Mhm.
would you think about doing speed ladders? And people they're like, no, no, no. And in all reality, the answer should be yes, if they're capable, meaning that there's no injury that's keeping them from doing these movement patterns. Because even though it's not explosive and they're not doing the speed ladder like maybe some of our professional athletes might doing it, it should be training for the speed of life. People really need to get the
Mhm.
feel of moving faster, because you're only going to be able to translate what you're doing in the gym into real life if you give yourself real life scenarios. And so I'm a huge advocate for speed ladders, no matter the age, especially when they're younger. It teaches different patterns. You're getting your body to move in different positions in all 3 planes of motion. But
Yep.
same thing for your seniors. I mean, even though they're still having to think about the patterning, lifting up their feet, which is super important, but then also speeding things up. I think all of that can translate into really good training to help prevent, especially that curb miss or possible miss, and having to step down. You didn't realize it, and you have to hurry up and step forward to keep from falling. All of those scenarios are things that can be mimicked with exercise in the gym.
Right. And you mentioned it, Wendy, changing elevation, stepping up onto things, stepping down off of things, different textures. And I don't know, Wendy, if you do this, but stepping on and off, or just kind of balancing on an AirX pad for a second and then stepping off, if not doing a whole exercise on the AirX pad to work on that proprioception that you mentioned. So changing elevation, different heights, 6-inch, 12-inch boxes, stepping on, stepping off, forward, sideways, turning on, turning, stepping down. So getting the different looks, Wendy, getting the variety of speeds, elevation, textures, all of those things for everybody. Again, it's not just, and this is the one thing that I don't say it peeves me, but just thinking that these modalities are just for athletes, right? It's not just for that person who's trying to get a lower score for golf or a faster time on the track. It's for everybody. These are things that need to carry through, because heck, you have to live in the world, and the world isn't just one big flat marble surface, right? It's not all smooth, it's not all flat, it's not all level. So to your point, Wendy, just different speeds, different movements, different postures, different positions, different surfaces, all of that stuff. So good point. But before we go on to the next everyday fitness fail, I want to read a quick announcement for you, because on this episode of Random Fit is brought to you by NASM One, the membership for trainers and coaches. Members enjoy unlimited access to hundreds of career resources. Get the Edge app to schedule and program clients. Enjoy half off all certifications and specializations, access free CEUs, and more. All this for just $35 a month. Go to nasm.org/membership to learn more about NASM One. All right. So, Wendy, this one is near and dear to my heart, because I am always looking for the remote control.
I'm always looking for it, but I can never hold on to it. I've got a little man and a big man in my house that just take over. And so, yes.
Yeah. So the challenge here is, okay, how can I find this remote control sitting on my butt, not even getting up, bending or looking into the couch. I'm just trying to reach right, reach left. I'm reaching behind the cushions, below that back pillow. And heaven forbid I have to move 2 inches to get up, but I'd rather get all that range of motion through my shoulders as I'm leaning, as I'm reaching, and all of this. So the awkward postures and the motion that we're commanding from the shoulders. So this is the remote control reaching disaster, right? As we are trying to find these things, and the next thing you know, it's like, oh, I'm a little tight across the shoulders here. And
I've
this
actually
is, yeah.
had a client that hurt their shoulder, like actually did a tear and
Oh
their
no.
rotator cuff, reaching back to grab something out of their back seat while they were in the front seat. They
Mhm.
were buckled in, and she reached and did something pretty awkwardly. And
Yeah.
so it's not even just reaching for the remote. These are
Yeah.
things I do that all the time. I read, my son's back there, so he'll be like, "Mom, grab this," and I'm
Oh yeah.
like driving, and I've got my hand back there. So yes, these are everyday patterns that, again, I can't really relate with the remote control. When you wrote that down, I was like, huh, I can relate in the car. But, you know, there's still hope that it could be a remote control thing moving forward.
Well, the car thing, that's actually happened to a client where he had to go to physical therapy because he strained it, right? I think one of his sons was doing something that he didn't want him to do, so he was going to reach out and, give him a little, little kind of pat on the shoulder. Hey,
Love tap.
let's not do this. Let's not do this right now. And then he strained his pec, and he had to go to physical therapy. I didn't see him for a month, right, because of the PT that he had to go through, and then we had to, of course, bring that in there. But the thing I had to explain to him is that he's a guy who's got a history of low back tightness and hip mobility, and with him, once he got back to me, it was just helping him understand that when you're sitting in a car, your legs are fixed, your hips are fixed. I mean, for goodness sake, you're buckled in. If you're in the car situation, not the couch situation, but you're buckled in, and then you have to take all of that rotation through your torso if you can, right? But if you've got the seat behind you, you're only going to go so far before I have to get my arm up and over the passenger seat and then do whatever I need to do in the back seat. Either in your scenario, Wendy, is like you're getting something, or you're giving something, or you're giving a little love tap, right? But all of that's coming from the shoulder. So if you are denied the ability to rotate through the entire spine, and then all of that has to come through the shoulder, yeah, you're going to put a lot more demand on that shoulder, especially if you live behind the computer. So your shoulders are forward, they're internally rotated, your hands are close together. If you have to manipulate the keyboard, your head's forward. So you're screaming everything to lock in forward. But then if you have to reach back, either to the back seat or, like I do, just reaching on those back cushions, right? You're putting a lot of force and effort through the shoulder. So these are the things that we need to watch out for, or at least integrate into the workout program.
100%. And today we're talking about preventing everyday fitness fails with common exercises and activities we do of everyday life here on Random Fit with Wendy Batts and Ken Miller. And Ken, we've talked about the car, getting in and out of the car and moving like that. We talked about putting on your pants, your shoes. We've talked a little bit about like reaching behind you and grabbing that. And we do know that people are they're just immobile in the thoracic spine, which is where you should be the most mobile and more stable in your cervical spine and lower back. That can also lead to issues with low back injuries. But another one that I thought was interesting when you're starting to look at the CDC and looking at injuries and what are common things that happen in life was the sliding and slipping in the shower or bathtub.
Yeah.
And that happened to my husband's mom actually at our house. She slipped in the bathtub. Luckily,
Ouch.
it was just a minor issue, but it's something that if you're not used to being on it, like we had talked about, unstable surface, this was something that was slick. And and just with the water aspect. And I was like, well, at least I knew my tub was clean because it was so clean that she was sliding. But I
Thank
thought that
goodness.
was a win. with the fail, there was a positive out of that. But they were saying that this is a very common injury for people that are over 45. And so I'm like, oh man, like you're starting to think of our age group, and now we're not even just worried about falls in general. We're thinking about just taking a shower.
Got to do that. Yeah, I mean, hopefully every day. But yeah, and this is, I mean, this is why they have those tapes, those no slip tapes that you can put on the shower, or they sell the tubs that way now. I mean, just because of that issue. Again, 45 years old and older, high risk. Again, the risks, the effects of the risk of falling are just huge now when you get older, because when you fall, I mean, there's the aspect of, and we've done episodes on osteoporosis. So if you fall and heaven forbid you break your hip or your femur, or again, you have 3 walls, one, depending on your shower situation, but I mean, there's the risk of hitting your head when the falls, it's a potential issue. So this is, again, we can't talk about this enough, about balance training and proprioception and being on unstable surfaces and just being able to react. So again, it's one thing to feel that you're unbalanced and you're about to fall, but do you have the strength and the power, right? The strength to pick up the leg and the power to put it down where it needs to go to prevent you from falling. But again, Wendy, if you have a nice clean tub like you have, just having the proprioception and knowing where you are in, when you're taking a shower is going to be very, very, very important, more important than anything else. But again, it's the proprioception, the balance, but then do you have the strength and the power to put that foot where it needs to be, or even using your upper body to catch you when you're falling. So a lot goes into fall prevention, or actually, again, when you're in the fall, are you fast enough to react and catch yourself during a fall?
Well, how about this one? You and I talk so much about the importance of recovery and obviously doing a proper warm up. I mean, you and I are huge advocates, working with some of the companies that have their percussion devices as well as the foam rollers. And we tell people in the morning, you really need to get up and you need to stretch. And I've had someone come to me and say, you know what, I took your advice and I stretch every morning before I get out of bed. However, this person was a very aggressive stretcher. I don't know if you have that client that they think that they have to do everything 110% super fast. And they think that if they do it fast, they're going to be done quicker and that it's going to still lead to good, positive benefits long term. While there's some truth to that, there is something called the gentle stretch in the morning. So I do this in the mornings now. Never did it before, but when I hurt my back, now I do it. I'll wake up and I'll just do a couple different stretches or something and hold it for a second or two. It's just a good way for me to wake up before I put both feet on the ground and hit the day running. And if you are aggressive and you're in bed and you start stretching muscles that don't need to be stretched, you're not holding it. You're just going as hard and as high and as fast as you can to the point to where it's not something that's an easy stretch. It's an aggressive stretch. This can lead to strains. This can lead to injuries, and this can actually lead to more soreness than not doing anything at all. So if you're going to have the morning routine of stretching before you get out of bed, just be gentle. Start your day gentle.
Take it slow. Take it slow. Ease into it. Right?
Ease into your day.
I actually have clients that before they even put 2 feet on the floor, I have them doing some ankle circles, some point and flex.
I do the leg cross, I hug my knees.
I mean, not saying that you want to do a full workout in the morning before you actually pull the covers off, but if your goal is to improve blood flow, get the joints moving a little bit, that's a place to start. But like you said, Wendy, once you get 2 feet on the ground, take it easy. You don't need to do the ballistic, the rapid toe touches, right? You don't need to do like, what's that? Batman Begins when Bruce Wayne he's waking up and then he just goes straight onto the floor and starts banging out push-ups, right? It doesn't have to be like that. Right. So just take it easy, get out there, slow touch, hold 20, 30 seconds, move what you need to move, just get some blood flow. All good stuff, but we can't go crazy with it.
the first time I actually started to do that, I do the one where you're just laying on your back and you bring one leg over and just kind of stretch your back and hold it for a second.
Yeah.
My husband's on the other side, and all of a sudden my leg goes flying over and he's laying sideways. He's like, why am I looking at your foot? And I'm like, hey, just let me be.
Yeah. Why are you kicking me?
Just so you know, if you start this morning ritual, you may want to let your significant other know that there may be a flying leg coming, or an arm if you're stretching stretching out to the side. But I think one of the last ones I want to mention, because this is also something that's very common, especially if you are thinking about having children, something to think about. If you currently do have children, you are going through, and something to think about maybe before you start to continue lifting your children, or if you know that your child is 8 and probably still shouldn't be lifted, but he loves those hugs and I give him some anyway. We called it the kid pickup blowout, because if you're not doing deadlifts, if you're not ready for that amount of weight, or doing some sort of like forward, the front loaded squat, goblet squats, any of that kind of stuff, sometimes it can be a lot of strain and stress to your knees, your back, your neck. Let me say that again, your neck.
Right.
So the posterior side is something that you definitely want to make sure that you're focusing on to counteract those type of activities.
Yeah. And we actually, at my facility, we have a trainer that has a client, and the client has got, I think the baby is like 3 or 4 months old now. But Tamira does a great job with her clients, because now she's got them doing, like you said, Wendy, the goblet squats are great for clients, or for anybody that has a little one. And thank goodness, well, at this point we have kettlebells that are heavier than the baby. Oh, you should see this baby's fat little legs, Wendy. And it's a cutest little baby. So she's got them doing goblet squats. So just like you talk about, even like doing a little pick up from the floor and then toss up and catch, right? And then going into different things, lunges. You can lunge, you can squat. So it doesn't have to be a goblet squat where you're holding the horns of the kettlebell and squatting down. You can make that a side lunge. You can make that a forward or a backward, or even a turn lunge. So different things that you can do. But I think the biggest point to that exercise is that you have a front carry. So if you want to translate that to a bar, you're just doing a front carry on the bar, the goblet squat, dumbbells. The options are endless. But
and deadlifts are super important, because especially if you have a crib that's lower, or if you have a pack and play and you have a kid that's in this pack and play, and we all know all kids are going to vary in ages and sizes and weights, all of it. If you are not moving and you're bent over and you're having to really bend over and then pick up, I call it dead weight, because they're just having their arms there. They're not helping push up and get themselves out of that scenario. That's a lot of strain and stress to your lower back.
Right.
And so having really good glute activation, really good core stability, making sure that you're really focusing on those different mechanics of life, because that is going to happen. And as we age, if you're thinking about having, if you're going to have grandchildren, something that can maybe more in your near future than mine, because yours are older than mine.
No, don't even talk about that.
But
stop.
I know. But this was something that when we started talking about it, I'm like, we should do this podcast, because we've had so many stories that that we can relate to, because we've either done it ourselves, we're in the midst of it and it's still happening, or it's something that we could see in the future, or just listening to our client stories. It's like we kind of giggle about it because it happens, and it's things that can be avoided if you really focus on what you're doing and how you can make the most out of each and every time you walk into your facility and work out, or if you're working out at home, things to incorporate, hopefully, to keep you from having some of these issues.
Yeah, and even if you have experienced zero of what we are talking about, the idea, don't wait. And I think that's one of the things that you and I, Wendy, talked about. It's like, you don't wait till you can't tie your shoes and not feel your hamstring. Don't wait until you have to do the 80-pound farmer carry across the street with your groceries. Don't wait. this is the stuff that we're trying to prevent. So if you're listening to us, and I know that in talking to some of our listeners who are in their 30s and 40s, for you guys listening to us and you're in that category, don't wait until like what Wendy brought up with the 45 years and up and a high rate of injury from the bathtub. Don't wait for all that stuff, but find context to the gym. It's not just about looking good, managing body composition, or performing better. It's about, okay, 15, 20, 35 years from now, how do I want to be? How do I want to interact with our environment, especially with the walking and that curbside tripping hazard that we have? But
that sounds like a podcast that you and I did, if I'm not mistaken, of where do you want to be, and then work your way backwards. Just saying.
Backcasting, guys, look that up. Look it up. Backcasting.
Casting it is.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Well, hey, great stuff. Glad to hear some of your stories aren't too far away from the stories that I hear from my clients. So from East Coast to West Coast, we're hearing the same thing. So thanks, Wendy, for all your insights. And for those of you listening to both Wendy and I on Random Fit, thank you so much for spending your time with us and listening to what we had to share with you. So if you like what you listen to, follow, subscribe, download, share, give us a 5 out of 5 rating if you can, if you please. But most importantly, let us know what you want us to talk about, and we will actually take that into consideration for future episodes. So until next time, everybody, take care and be well.